Chaim. So, Pesach Langzam was a teacher. He was a Malamed. And those days, teachers didn't really work in schools. Instead, they used to travel around to actually where their students lived. And he was a traveling teacher. And he was brought down to a little village where there was a very, very small Jewish community, only a few children. And there was a Jewish innkeeper in that city who brought him down to teach his children and the other children in the community. They gave him a place to stay in the inn. And he would leave his family for half the year, for 6 months, right after Sukkot, all the way till Pesach. And he would spend that time teaching. And then right before Pesach, he would get his wages, his paycheck for the last half a year, and he would go home. So it's the middle of the winter, very, very cold day, and Pesach is sitting in the inn, and it's big snow outside, and they hear a knock at the door. The innkeeper goes to open the door, and he sees 3 Polish peasants standing outside in the snow, very thin coats, and they're half frozen. And they say, "Can we come in?" And the innkeeper says, "No, absolutely not." And he slams the door in their face. So Pesach, the Malamed, says to the innkeeper,
"You shouldn't have done it."
"What are you doing?" And he says, "Take one look at them. They don't have money to pay.
Yeah.
They can't pay for a room. They can't pay for their food. I'm not letting them in." Pesach's like, "How can you turn somebody down? They're freezing in the cold." And he says, "I'm sorry, no money, no entry. That's how it works over here." Right? So Pesach, what?
No money, no honey. You know what to say.
So Pesach. So Pesach says.
Even though they're not Jewish.
I know.
So Pesach, even though Pesach himself doesn't have too much money, he says, "Put it on my tab."
Okay.
Right?
That's
You
nice.
can't let
That was nice.
poor frozen people freeze outside. Put it on my tab. Okay, the innkeeper opens the door. He's like, "You guys are lucky. This the rabbi over here. It's all on his tab." The rabbi's tab. That sounds good. They come inside, give us a good drink. What type of drink? The best drink, most expensive drink you have. It's on his tab, right? No, okay. They bring him a drink. Bring us some food. What type of food? The best steak you can get. You have, right? The best steak on the menu.
Sure, why not?
Right? Okay. They finish eating. We want the best room in the inn. We want the best room in the house. It's a penthouse suite. A big,
residential.
Right? A residential suite. It's on his tab. Listen, we can treat ourselves. Right? So they stay overnight. They get up the next morning. They're looking outside and it's still snowing. We gotta stay here another day. Listen.
Right.
If we get good food like this, we don't mind staying here another day. They stay there another day. They eat the best food.
Sure.
Of course, it's a Jewish innkeeper. Right? I mean, these people are non-Jewish peasants, but they don't mind eating kosher food. I mean, usually kosher food is more expensive, but if it's on somebody else's bill, it's not, they don't mind. They stay there another day. The next morning they get up again, it's snowing. Right? Again, it's snowing. We'll stay here another day. Right? We'll party another day. They spend all day partying, eating, drinking. And this goes on for the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
Right? At the end of 2 weeks, it already stopped snowing a few days ago, but they figured they'll stay a little longer while there's still snow on the roads. Right? They're having a good time.
Okay.
Finally, after 2 weeks, when all the snow melted, they kind of had no choice. So fine, okay, they leave. They leave. They thank the rabbi for his hospitality and his kindness, and they leave. A few months go by, and it comes time for Pesach, and the rabbi is getting ready to go home. So he goes to the innkeeper and he says, "I'm going to go home. I need my wages." He says, "Sure, let's sit down and calculate it." He brings out his calculator, his books, whatever he has over there. And he says, "Listen, I figured that for the 5 months that you worked here, I owe you 40 rubles.
Oops.
But the 3 peasants who stayed there for 2 weeks, they racked up a tab of 43 rubles.
Ooh.
So you owe me 3 rubles."
Nice.
Okay.
Lovely.
He has nothing really he could say. He says, "Listen, I don't have 3 rubles, but I'll go home, and after Pesach, I guess I'll cover my
Cover the 40.
right. I'll cover the money that I owe."
Right.
Okay. He goes home for Pesach, and he comes to his city. He's a little nervous to going into the house,
Yeah.
so he figures he'll go to shul for a while to sit and learn over there. It's a little
Usually
reluctant.
comes home with 40 rubles.
Yes, usually he comes home, he stops off to buy stuff on the way, and now it's going to come home empty-handed with a debt of 3 rubles. He figures it's not really worth going home, so he heads to the shul, and he starts learning, right? His wife knows he's supposed to go home, he's not coming home, so she sends their son, Tzvi Elimelech, out to look for him. So Tzvi Elimelech goes around, he's looking, asks the people, "You see my father?" "Yeah, we saw he's in shul." He goes to shul. And, he says, "Mom wants you to come home." And he's like, I'm coming soon, a little later. Finally, he pushes it off a little bit. Finally, it's starting to get dark outside. They have no choice to start going home. And as they're going down some narrow streets, suddenly they hear hoofbeats behind them. This wagon is driving down this little street. You have to quickly get out of the way. And in those narrow streets, if you don't get out of the way, you can get
Out of the way.
crushed. Right? So listen, they get out of the way, and the wagon drives by, driving really wildly down this narrow street. And as the wagon goes makes a sharp turn, they see a little envelope falling off the back of the wagon. So Pesach picks up the envelope, and he starts chasing after the wagon. You dropped something, but the wagon is not paying any attention to anybody. It just speeds off, and before long, it's gone. Okay, maybe we could open up the envelope and identify who this belongs to. They open up the envelope. There's no name on the envelope. There's no documents in the envelope. There are exactly 43 rubles. Right?
Okay.
They're not really sure what are they supposed to do. I mean, it seems like this is some sort of message, some sort of reward, but they don't really know. Maybe it belongs to somebody. They figure they're going to go ask the rabbi after Yom Tov. The next night was the first night of Pesach. Somehow they managed, now that they have 43 rubles, they're able to go out and buy nice food for Pesach. And they celebrate the beautiful Pesach Seder together. And it comes the end of the Seder, and it comes time to open up the door. Right? They open up the door. Who do we open the door for at the end of the Seder? What?
Looks good.
For Elijah, right? They open up the door, and as usual, it's nice and empty outside. But this little boy, this Tzvi Elimelech, he looks at the door, and he's like, "Dad, the coachman's here. Give him back his envelope, And his father's like, "Shh, keep quiet. You don't need to tell anybody about this, right?" And he calls him over after. He's like, "Don't tell anybody you met this coachman appeared. I don't need to tell anybody about the coachman at all until the last day that you're in this world." And sure enough, this son, Tzvi Elimelech of Dinav, later changed his name from Tzvi Elimelech Langzam. I think it was a military service problem, so he had to avoid the draft. He changed his name from Tzvi Elimelech Langzam to Tzvi Elimelech Shapiro, and he became known as the Rebbe of Dinav, and he published the book Bnei Yisachar, and that's what he was called. He was known as the Bnei Yisachar, and on the last day of his life, he revealed this story. Right? 43 rubles. So we open up this week's Parsha. It's a double Parsha this week. And one of the things we find the whole story about the 2 tribes who wanted to be on the other side of the Jordan River. And then later, towards the end of Parshas Masei, Hashem tells Moshe that you're about to go into the land of Israel. I want to reveal to you the exact borders of the land of Israel. And Hashem goes on to tell Moshe the exact borders of the land of Israel. And he says, please tell these borders to the Jewish people. So Moshe, says the Torah, who usually does exactly what Hashem tells him, he goes to the Jewish people. He says, these are the borders that Hashem has given to the Jewish people, but not to all Jewish people, only to the 9.5 tribes. Because there are another 2.5 tribes who already got their portion. They wanted a portion on the other side of the east of the Jordan River, and they already took their portion. So these borders that Hashem gave are only for 9.5 tribes. Comes the Arachayim HaKadosh, and he asks, what's going on here? Hashem didn't tell Moshe to say this. This wasn't part. Hashem told him to tell the borders to the Jewish people. Now, the Jews all knew that only 9.5 tribes are about to enter the land. Why does Moshe need to tell them that these borders that Hashem gave are only for the 9.5 tribes, not for the other 2.5? Hashem didn't tell them to say this. The Jewish people already knew this. This we learned already, a few chapters earlier. Why is Moshe repeating it now, and what's he trying to tell the Jewish people with this? What lesson is he trying to teach the Jewish people? So, the tzaddik Rab Noach of Lechovitz used to tell over the following story very often to his Hasidim. This is actually similar to a different story that we said over on Shavuos night. I don't know who was here. We said over the story of my great-grandfather, Rab Meir of Mishlan. This is a bit of a similar story. He used to say over the story that there was a simple Jew whose name was Hirschke. And Hirschke used to get up early every morning, he used to go out to the marketplace, and used to buy and sell things. He had dealings with all of the Gentile peasants in his city. And he worked very hard, and he made a decent living, he made a decent livelihood. And one day, every night he used to try to go to shul a little bit to listen to the rabbi teaching, listen to a shir. It was usually hard for him. He would sometimes fall asleep in the middle of the shir after a whole day of work in the market. And he's listening to this class, and here's the rabbi saying how a Jew's parnasa comes from Hashem. And of course we need to make vessels for it. But, if we don't need to work too hard on those vessels. It's really up to Hashem exactly how much we're going to earn, right? And if Hashem decreed that we're going to get 43 rubles, we're going to get 43 rubles one way or another, right?
Sure.
So Hirschke comes home, and he's like, I'm working really, really hard. And the rabbi just said, you don't really have to work very hard, right? So he tells his wife, listen, tomorrow, I'm not really going to get up early to go to the market. I'll stay home a little bit. I'll learn. I'll, daven a little more ba'arichas. So that's what he does. His wife's a little upset at him. She's like, you got to make a vessel. You got to make a keli. So they go. He goes to shul. He sits for a few classes after davening. He davens the longest minyan. He sits for a few classes afterwards. And then he goes home and he takes out a sefer and he starts learning.
This is my
And
natural
his
idea.
wife starts nudging him a little bit. There's Chaim, welcome. So you have to go out and you have a job to do. You have to go to the market. And he says, no, I'm fine. If Hashem wants to give me parnasa here. Meanwhile, in the market, people are coming to buy and sell things, and a few of the peasants are standing there looking for Hirschke. Like, where's Hirschke? No, not here today. Well, I'm not selling to anyone, only Hirschke. Hirschke is the only one who gives me good deals, good prices. Where's Hirschke? He's home. Okay, let's go to Hirschke's house. So it's a whole line of peasants marches out of the marketplace. And they march to his house, and they're like, we're here, we need to have things to sell from you, to buy from you. And he's like, okay, listen, I don't have to go chasing after my parnasa, but if it comes to me, I will turn it down, right? So he opens the front door of his house, and within a few minutes, he completes all the transactions. And at the end of the day, he counts up how much money he earned, and he finds that he actually earned the same amount of money that he used to earn from running around the market all day, right? And Rab Noach of Lechovitz used to say over the story, he used to warn his Hasidim that this is not an approach that anyone can take, right? So most people, the Gemara says, a lot of people try this approach, like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. A lot of people try to be like Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, but it's not really for anyone. It's for somebody who has real strong faith and trust in Hashem. But he said, I'm telling you the stories that you should know that you don't need to, you don't need to run around all day trying to earn an extra penny. You have to make a vessel. You have to do what you have to do. But you don't need to work too hard. You have to realize that everything comes from Hashem. The tzaddik, the Mor of Hashemesh, Rab Kloinemus Kalman, he was a student of Melech of Lezhensk, and he became a big Hasidic Rebbe. So he had a son, Rabbi Yosef Baruch, And when he passed away, his Hasidim went to his son, Rabbi Yosef Baruch, and he said, "We want you to come the next Rebbe." Rabbi Yosef Baruch turned it down. He said, I'm not really interested in being a Rebbe. I'll learn to go out, I'll work, I'll learn a normal living. And even though he didn't want to become a Rebbe, a lot of people felt that he was a holy Jew and they wanted to come to get blessings from him. So they would come to him for blessings. And whenever somebody would come to him, his approach was he would listen to them. He would hear their problems. And he would do his best to empathize with them and to feel their pain. And he would begin crying when he heard their problems. And while he was crying, he would say, he would pray out of his with tears in his eyes, asking Hashem to help them, and they would usually be helped by Hashem. And he got a reputation for this, and people began talking. He's not a Rebbe, but he gives brachas. They didn't know what to call him. Should they call him the Rebbe? Should they call him the businessman? He doesn't really fit in any category. So they gave him the title, instead of the Rebbe, they gave him the title, the Gute Yid. The Gute Yid, the good Jew. Right? That was his title. And he lived in the city of Neustadt, so he became known as the Gitte Yid for Neustadt. That was his title. And, he earned, he worked, he earned a living, and at one point in his life, he went into business for a period of time. And, his fellow businessmen told him that, once a year we travel to the big city of Leipzig, there's a big fair, you could earn a lot of money, you could buy and sell a lot of merchandise. And he said, listen, I'm a businessman, I'm not really interested in traveling to Leipzig, but if that's what everybody does, that's what you got to do. So he went out, he purchased different merchandise, and he loaded up a wagon, and he traveled to Leipzig, right? They come to Leipzig, he stays in this inn with all these other businessmen. They tell him tomorrow morning is when the market starts. It's a one-day market where everybody has to buy and sell whatever they could. You got to get up really early in the morning. He says, of course, I get up early every morning. They're like, no, not to daven and to go to the mikveh. You got to get up early to go to the market. I'll get up early, I'll daven, and I'll go to the market, right? So they tell him, no, it's not really how it works. If you want to make money, you have to show up early, because everything sell out very quickly. If you're going to come late, there's going to be nothing left, right? So he says, okay, listen, I'm not going to change my normal habits. It's time to daven. So he gets up early in the morning, and he takes out a sefer, and he begins learning Chassidus. And his fellow merchants are like rapping tefillin really quickly. They're like mumbling words, and they're telling you gotta hurry up. And he's like, I'm learning Chassidus. I can't start davening yet. Finally, he finishes learning Chassidus. They already finished davening. They're heading out. They're like, you gotta come with us. He's like, of course, I'm going outside too. I'm also going to the mikveh, right? Right? He heads out. He goes. They head to the marketplace, and they're like telling him, no, if you don't come in time, you're not going to make any sales. And he says, listen, I can't go to the market before I daven. So he goes out, he goes to the mikveh, he comes back, he begins davening, he davens for 3-4 hours. After davening, he sits down, says some tehillim. Finally, after he finishes everything, he goes outside and he takes his wagon and he goes to the market. He's coming to the market and the other merchants are already leaving the market, and like, you're too late, you missed it, the train left the station, it's over, there's nothing the market is closed. Listen, I'm here now. I'm sure there's something we can do. And she starts looking around, and the market is empty. And they're like, see, we told you. We warned you. And we warned you. You should have davened quicker. You should have gotten up early. He's like, listen, I can't go to the market without davening. And as they're arguing with him over there, this wagon comes really quickly driving into the fair, and this guy gets off the wagon. He's like, what's going on? Everything closed already? My boss sent me here to purchase merchandise. If I come back with nothing, I'm going to be in big trouble. Anybody has something to sell? And Rabbi Yosef Baruch says, yeah, a wagon full of stuff. I don't know if it's what you like. He says, listen, I'm desperate. I got to buy anything. So what do you want for it? He gives him a price. No bargaining. He takes everything. Right? He takes everything.
Love it.
And Rabbi Yosef Baruch turns to his friends. He's like, see, the market's not closed. Everything's still going well. And they say, listen, okay, you were half right, they told him. You managed to sell all your merchandise, but you realize that's only half the job. When you go to the market, you got to sell your merchandise, and you got to buy new merchandise. Now you're left empty-handed. So he says, maybe another wagon's going to come. No, they wait a few more minutes. No more wagons are coming. Anyways, they got to go home. So they head home. They start heading back. And as they're driving, they're all driving with full wagons. He's driving with an empty wagon. And suddenly they hear somebody yelling from the side of the road. They go over to see what's going on, and they see the local nobleman's wagon got stuck in the mud. It happened in those days. That was like a normal occurrence, right? And they try pulling out the wagon, and it's not working. Right? It's stuck, and it's sinking into the mud. And all the merchants got out their wagon. They try to help them out, to pull and to push. And they're getting all muddy, but if the wagon's not moving, it continues sinking deeper and deeper. Finally, the nobleman sees it's a lost cause. He says, listen, we can't save my wagon, at least get me out, right? Whatever's inside, I don't really care about. They rescue him. He's so thankful, you saved me. The wagon's lost. If anybody wants any of the merchandise I bought, you can take it. Right? All the merchants start going over, they want to take things, but their wagons are full. But Yosef is like, listen, I have this empty wagon. We could load it up with the best merchandise that the nobleman just bought. And he ends up coming home with a full wagon of the best merchandise without spending a penny.
It's a good business.
And
It's phenomenal.
so this
Sounds
this says the Orach Chaim is what Moshe is telling the Jewish people. The 2.5 tribes came to Moshe a few chapters earlier, and they say, Moshe, Hashem is about to lead us into the land, but there's this whole area of land outside of Israel, and we want to get some extra real estate, right? We have this idea, this brilliant idea. We can make some more money. We can get some extra real estate. We can settle on the eastern side of the Jordan River. Now, is that the best thing to do? Not really. Is that what Hashem wants? Not exactly, but we can put together a good argument. We can convince him. We can convince Moshe. We can convince Hashem. We'll end up getting some extra real estate. It's worth it, right? Moshe says it's a big problem. You're going to have to leave your families for 14 years. And they're like, we'll figure it out. Right? The Medrash says what ended up happening? They ended up having to leave their families for 14 years. They left their young children at home. Their children didn't see their parents for 14 years. And the children ended up almost assimilating and dressing and acting like all of the nations around them. And then the nations around them began fighting with them, and so war broke out. And 14 years later, the parents are coming back from Israel, and they see this war going on, and they're like, we want to get involved. We don't know which side to join. All the sides look the same, right? They're expecting to see if it's kippas or tzitzis, but there's no, and they're like, what's going on? And at that moment, suddenly one side calls out, Aneinu, Hashem Aneinu. Right? The Medrash says somehow they knew what to say, and they were able to figure out which side to join, and they were able to help out their children. But you can imagine what relationship they had with their children after this, right? If father leaves their child for 14 years, it's not the same, right? Even if they come back afterwards, it's not the same. Their children weren't the same. Their family life wasn't the same. But they got extra real estate. It was all worth it. They earned a few extra bucks, right? So they came up with this whole plan. We're going to leave our family for 14 years, and we're going to go fight, and we're going to make cities for our families, and we're going to get a whole huge area outside the land of Israel. So Moshe comes along and says to them, Hashem just revealed the borders of the land of Israel. Moshe says, do you know why Hashem chose these borders? Because there were only 9.5 tribes. Had there been 12 tribes, what would have happened? The borders would have been different. You think you got extra real estate? That's not true. Hashem would have extended the border of Israel a little bit north, maybe to Damascus, maybe a little bit south. You didn't end up getting one extra acre of land. Not one extra penny from all of your ideas, all of your extra efforts. The 14 years that you abandoned your family didn't earn you one extra penny. It did lose you a lot of time, a lot of the relationship with your children. That's what it cost you. But you didn't end up getting one extra acre of land. And this is really a lesson for all of us, right? We all have this temptation. We could all spend a few extra hours in the office, right? And earn a few extra dollars. What's the price? The price is less time with our family, less time with our children. And it's a difficult decision if we look at it that way, as the extra money versus our relationship with our children. It's a difficult choice, and some people choose their family, and some people choose their money. But the truth is, it's not a choice, because you don't end up earning one extra penny. And just to conclude with a story, happened about 800 years ago. In Paris, there were 2 silversmiths. Their names were Naphtali Azariah and Yaakov Avudraham. These were two silversmiths, and they weren't regular silversmiths. They were they were special people. They were students of Rabbeinu Yechiel of Paris. And, they knew that on Rosh Hashanah, every year on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem decides what's going to happen to us during the coming year. So they were very curious to know what's going to happen with them during the coming year. Right? We all are. On Rosh Hashanah, we're all very curious to know what Hashem decided for us during the coming year. So they were kind of spiritually elevated people, and they decided to do a shailat chalom. They wanted to ask, they wanted to have revealed to them in a dream what was decreed upon them this Rosh Hashanah for the coming year. I don't know exactly why, what was going on in their lives at that time, but that's what they decided to do. And they both did it, these two silversmiths, Yaakov and Naphtali. And they both had a dream the night of Rosh Hashanah or the night after Rosh Hashanah. And they were told everything that's going to happen, their families, their children, their health, and they're also told financially what it was decreed that they should earn that year. Yaakov was told that he would earn 150 gold pieces, 150 gilden. And Naphtali was told that he would earn 200 gilden. Right? So the next morning, they came to their teacher, Rabbeinu Yechiel, and they told Rabbeinu Yechiel, we had this dream, and I was told I would earn 150 gold coins, and he's going to earn 200. And Rabbeinu Yechiel says, that's interesting. Let's check this out. He says, I want you to write down during the year. I guess in those days, they didn't really have accountants like they do today. Most businesses didn't have a regular accountant. They didn't have QuickBooks. So he said, this year I want you to keep track of every penny that comes in and every penny that comes out, and I want you to come to me at the end of the year before next Rosh Hashanah, and we'll see if it's true, right? Yeah, is Yaakov going to earn 150 gilden, and is Naphtali going to earn 200? So that's what they do. During the year, they keep track of every penny. Middle of the year, they have some business contract together, and they get into a big argument. And they come before Rabbeinu Yechiel, and they're arguing over 6 gilden. Naphtali says that Yaakov says that Naphtali owes him 6 gilden, and Naphtali says, no, I don't owe you anything. So Rabbeinu Yechiel says, do you have any proof? And he says, no, it was a verbal agreement, but he owes me 6 gilden. And Rabbeinu Yechiel says, listen, if there's no proof, I can't make him pay. So, the halach is, he doesn't have to pay you the 6 gilden. Okay, they both go out. And a few months pass by, it comes Erev Rosh Hashanah, they both come in front of Rabbeinu Yechiel with their books. And Rabbeinu Yechiel opens up Yaakov's book, and he sees that he was supposed to earn 150, but he only earned 144. And Naphtali was supposed to earn 200, he earned 206. Right? So Rabbeinu Yechiel says, you remember those 6 coins that you said you owed him, and you said you didn't, we didn't have any proof. It looks like you really do owe him those 6 gilden. And Naphtali is adamant, very stubborn. He said, absolutely not. Just because we had a dream, that doesn't mean we have to rule a halachic decision. You can't rule a halachic decision based on a dream. And Naphtali says, you're right, we can't rule based on a dream, but you know that you owe him the money. And he says, absolutely not, I don't owe him a penny. My dream was wrong, he says. Right? Okay, fine. That's what you want. They both head out from Rabbeinu Yechiel and they go to work, right? So I don't know why they're working on Erev Rosh Hashanah, but I guess that's what was going on. They go to work, and Yaakov comes into his store, and he sees a whole line of customers outside of the store. He's surprised. It's unusual. And they're all coming in. They're all buying. They're not just looking around. Usually they're looking around. They're buying and buying. And Naphtali, in the meantime, he heads to his store, and there's no customers are there. Finally, a customer shows up. So he just looks around, and he leaves without buying anything. Right? At the end of the day, Yaakov counts up his money, and he managed to earn in one day 6 gilden. Pretty good. And Naphtali earned nothing that day, and he's really frustrated. He goes out of the store, he slams the door shut, and the big, beautiful stained glass door in front of his store smashes as he's closing it. And he calls he quickly calls some workers to see what it would take to repair, and they tell him it's going to cost you 6 gilden. Right? So, we all have to realize that, most of us don't have this dream. Most of us don't know exactly how much we're supposed to earn. But we have to know that on Rosh Hashanah, Hashem knows exactly what we're going to earn this year. And spending a few extra hours away from our family in the office is not going to change that. Okay? It's going to end up costing us a lot, and it's not going to earn us 1 extra penny. So we should all make the right decision. We should all choose to rely on Hashem, spend the extra time with our family. Of course, we do need to make a vessel. We do need to work. We're not on the level of this Hirshka, of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. But we have to realize that it's only a vessel, and that Hashem already decided in the beginning of the year exactly how much money we earn, but He didn't decide how much time we get to spend with our family. That's a choice that we have to make. L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim.
Shekaya.